Okay, okay. Hello, good morning. Welcome to this session. Today, uh, and welcome to this session. Today, we are going to talk about descriptive reading comprehension, right? So, if I am audible and visible, do drop in a message and let me know. And if you are having trouble listening to me or getting a clear view of me, do let me know as well. Hello, good morning, good morning. Welcome to this session. Okay, so what is our agenda for the day? Today we are going to talk about descriptive reading comprehension. We're going to start off the session with some tips which you should remember before starting your preparation, and there would be specific points which you need to keep in mind on the day of the exam itself. I will move on from there and I'm going to talk about the exam rubric, where we're going to discuss the word limit and talk about the language and the content and how you will be evaluated. Next, we will move on to a guided reading of a passage, which we will read together, so that both of us, we're going to try to work out the main points and the themes. And from there, we're going to move on to a group discussion on the answers. And we're going to finish up with some make sentences, which we will do together. Right? Yes? Okay. Hello, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the session. Welcome to this session. Okay, let me start off my PowerPoint. Okay, so before you start off with anything, you should remember we are talking about descriptive reading comprehension. Therefore, certain concepts are involved, right? So we are not only talking about describing, so it's descriptive in that sense. It is also going to be reading and comprehending. Yes? So you must read because you would like to comprehend. Yes? So look at the first point. You should read with a purpose. Yes? What is the meaning of reading with a purpose? So when you're reading a passage, try to find out what is happening, how is it happening, and why is it happening. This is very, very important. Trying to read with a purpose. If you're reading a passage randomly, without any point, without trying to find out anything and reading it multiple times, no matter what you do, you will not be able to find out the meaning and you will end up wasting your time. That's the first point, right? Look at the next point. Do not read word for word. Each and every passage is divided into paragraphs. So when we will do the guided reading, you'll see for your convenience, I have divided the paragraph into certain sections. That is called chunking, right? Into small chunks. That will help you to make a sense out of it. So every paragraph comes with a theme, and your idea is to find out what exactly is that passage talking about, right? Now, there are different ways of doing it. There are some who read the passage first and answer the questions. On the other side, We can also read the questions first, then go back to the passage and try to find out the answer. Keep something in mind. No matter what strategy you use, it should be least time consuming and most effective. And how do you ensure that is done? You have to practice it. Without practice, this is not something that will not come to you overnight. You have to practice it. So when you are practicing your passage, you must keep this in mind. Look at the last point, avoid distraction. When you are attempting a reading comprehension during your exam, try to calm down, try to settle down, try to avoid distraction. If you do not avoid distraction and your mind is clogged with other thoughts, or you are worried and you want to finish off your answer, you finish off your test, you will go on reading the passage again and again and again. And that will not help, because you remember, you are racing against time. You have 90 minutes and you need to finish answer worth 100 marks. Okay? Hello, Neeraj. Hello, Shefali. How are you? Good? Okay. Okay. So, in order to perfect these techniques, I have a tip for you, right? So, when you are practicing or when you're preparing for your exam, why don't you try this, right? So, pick out from the newspaper or a novel. So, every time you practice, you pick out a passage, read it just once, close it, and try to note down the main summary and the main points, right? How will this help you? This will help you in developing your memory and retention power. Now, don't stop. You have to practice this. Because if you do that, you're gonna not gonna go back to the passage again and again and again. You can read it once and you can remember the content of each paragraph. This memory which you will develop, this power of retention which you will develop through this technique, will help you during the exams to retain the main points, and you can go back to it without reading the passage again and again and wasting your time. Okay, let's move on. Now remember this, do not forget this. When you're answering your question, you must stick to this word limit. You cannot write something that is sketchy and vague and just has 2 points. If you are attempting a question that has 5 marks, you have to write between 90 to 100 words. Yes? How will you do that? We're going to do that shortly. You will see. If you're attempting an answer worth 10 marks, you have to write 150 to 200 words and 250 to 300 words. Please keep these numbers in your mind, right? If you write an answer that is vague and sketchy and doesn't have any important points, you will be penalized. Why? Why this is so? Just give me a moment. Let me see. Hello, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the session. We are talking about some tips that you can keep your mind before we start working on our reading comprehension for the day. Okay. Okay, now why is this important? Because we have here in a reading comprehension passage, or in the descriptive paper as a whole, you are marked on content and language. Yes, which makes content. Now, what is content? Content is whatever you write in your answers. That is very, very important. If your answer is very brief, doesn't cover all the points, hardly 1 or 2 points, and it is grammatically correct, then you are losing marks for content. The same is true for language. If you're writing a good answer, but you are not using correct English, if your English is grammatically incorrect, there are spelling errors, errors of capitalization, punctuation, you will be penalized. So please understand content and language, both of them, both of them are very, very important when You are writing your descriptive paper. Yes? Okay, let's move on. So this is the passage. So now that we are get set and we are ready to go, let's look at the passage. Yes? So for your convenience, I have divided the passage into chunks. So here is the first and the second paragraph of the passage. Yes? Take a minute or so and read it, and then we can move on. Perhaps half of India's economic activity and even more of its jobs involve dodging tax. That is why Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, has set out to formalize the economy. The results are hit and miss, but they are clear enough to give other tax catchers a guide to how they should cast the net. What are we talking about in the first paragraph? So you can do the exercise which I mentioned a few minutes back, right? So you can just look at the passage and just try to write down in a sentence or two what the first passage, what the first paragraph is telling us. If you read carefully, you will see we have a problem in hand. The first passage is talking about a problem and a solution, or a suggested solution, right? So take a look at this. Dodging tax. This is the problem we have in hand. Yes? So a big problem concerning India's economic activity is that people are dodging jobs. Do we have a solution for that? Yes. A suggested solution is that to formalize the economy. Look at this is your keyword. This is your keyword, right? So we have a problem and a solution has been mentioned as well. So if you ask me, or if you ask yourself, what do we need to take back from the first paragraph? So when we are reading the first paragraph, what do we need to remember? You need to remember that we have a problem in hand, and that is people are dodging tax. People are avoiding tax. Yes. You know, if you remember a few days back in the newspaper, there was an income tax raid concerning to Bollywood celebrities. Yes. So this happens, right? But there is a solution as well. And so what is our prime minister doing? He's set out to formalize the economy, right? Let's move on to the next paragraph. Next, read the next paragraph and we can follow the similar pattern. Having a more formal economy makes sense. Taxes pay for public services. India's rampant informality is one reason why its tax to GDP ratio has been stuck at a measly 15% or so for decades, cramping education and healthcare. Formal jobs pay up to 20 times more than informal ones by one government estimate, and formal firms are more likely to innovate, grow, and export. Having people and businesses operate outside the rules, whether by dodging taxes or avoiding regulations, is an affront to the idea of a fair society. Okay, so let's follow a similar exercise, right? What is the main idea in the second paragraph? Can you find out the keywords? Yes? Anyone? Would anyone like to try out? Okay, look at the first sentence. It says, having a more formal economy makes sense. So, if you have a formal economy, it's going to help us. Yes, it's sensible. Obviously, the rest of the paragraph talks about why it makes sense. Why is it sensible? Why should we have a formal economy? Yes, remember what I said? You ask yourself why, what, and how. The second paragraph talks about why. So if you can extract this content, this idea from your paragraph when you're reading it in the beginning, when you go back and read your questions, the moment you find a question that talks about the advantages, the uses, or why is it sensible, you know you can come back to the second paragraph, you will have your answer there. Let's move on. Paragraph 3. Mr. Modi's chief pro-formality policy was the demonetization of most banknotes in 2016. The cost, several quarters of subpar growth, outweighed the benefits. It caused much dislocation, but it is hard to see others emulating it. Throttling the informal sector meant hurting not only crooks and tax dodgers, who were Mr. Modi's targets, but also hundreds of millions scratching out a living in the jobs market of last resort. Last resort, I'm sorry. Most Indians would work in the formal sector if they could, but jobs are scarce. Rather than nudging them towards better behavior, as policymakers, we are often advised to do demonetization. Advised to do demonetization was more akin to a cricket bat to the head. Now, what's happening in paragraph 3? Look, this follows a sequence, right? So the first paragraph talked about problem and a probable solution. The next paragraph talked about why should we adopt the solution? What is the uses? Yes, what use does it have? Advantages. The paragraph 3 talks about what the government did to catch these tax dodgers. Yes. So Mr. Modi first step towards formalizing, right, the financial policy was to introduce demonetization. But then things become complicated. Did demonetization help? Maybe. Did it not? Yes, to some extent. Because if you read the passage carefully, you are given two-sided picture of what is happening. How did this policy fare? People, Mr. Modi thought it would catch the crooks and the tax dodgers because they were ultimately the target of the government. But at the end of the day, it ended up hurting so many people who were trying to eke out a living. So the policy was like a cricket bat to the head. It hurt. Yes? So you read the third paragraph, and these are the main points. So you can take a pen when you're doing the exam. You can take a pen, or you can also make a mental note, and you can mark demonetization because demonetization is an important word. Yes. Look at the next word, dislocation. Location. Location means a place. Dislocation means moving out of place. Things were moved out of place. Look at other words. Look, throttling the informal sector meant hurting not just crooks. But if you read till the end of the sentence, this is what is giving you a balanced perspective. The government's target was the tax dodgers, but it ended up hurting the common people. And the last sentence is basically the main point. It's telling you the policy was like a cricket bat to the head. Right? Let's move on. Next paragraph. A better approach is to tempt people out of the shadows. A government scheme to provide bank accounts to all citizens. Look, stop with the first sentence. It tells you a better approach. And you know that this passage is telling you about a better approach, right? So, see, if you are doing what we called consciously, reading consciously with all your attention, with all your focus, there are words. If you can identify those words, remembering the passage and not going back to it again and again is not that difficult, right? See, it's telling you a better approach. So demonetization did not work. So we are looking at another approach. A government scheme to provide bank accounts to all citizens and have them linked to mobile phones and biometric national IDs has turbocharged digital payments, which are easier to track and tax. Dealings with the authorities increasingly take place online, where it is harder to get shaken down for a bribe. That makes the prospect of being a formal business less terrifying. A newish goods and services tax entitles formal businesses to refunds that are not available in the grey economy. The number of firms registered has risen by 50%. So, what is the better approach? The better approach is, which the government has done, they have linked all your bank accounts with the mobile phones and your national IDs. So everything is Aadhaar linked nowadays, right? So which makes it easier for them to track your taxes, whether you're paying it, whether you're dodging it. This is a better way of doing it than demonetization. So we have a comparison here. We have a better approach. We have a suggestion, right? So this paragraph 4 is important for multiple reasons. Okay, let's look at the next paragraph. The best results are those that lead to formalization as a byproduct of sensible rulemaking. Small companies fail to grow into large formal ones because hundreds of unreformed labor laws are doing business legitimately. Business tax in India are among the highest in the world or can be escaped only by using loopholes. Courts that formal businesses rely on often fail to help. Mr. Modi is right that a more formal economy is a good thing, but he has overlooked the most effective solution. So here we have the author's opinion coming in. What the government has done initially is good. Introducing a formal economy is very, very good, but he hasn't yet adopted the most effective solution. See what I'm doing? I'm reading the whole passage and I'm only trying to, I'm not going word by, yes, I'm going word by word, but I'm not trying to make meaning word by word. I'm trying to extract the main points. This will improve if you practice. You use the tip that I mentioned. Take a passage, take any random passage from any newspaper, any magazine, and try to find out the main point in a sentence or two. Even if not in a sentence, maybe bullet points, for example, strategies, advantages, disadvantages, demonetization, slash, arrow, did not work. Even that will help you to identify the main idea of the passage. Okay? Now let's look at the questions. Why does the Prime Minister want to formalize the economy? So, if you have been practicing, the moment you get the question, you will remember this is something we discussed right in the beginning, maybe in the first paragraph. Let's go back to it and let's take a look. Look at that. We have the answer right there. Why? Because people are dodging tax. And that's the reason the Prime Minister has set out to formalize the economy. The reason is right in front of you. Hello, Nitesh. Good morning. Now, is writing this enough? Whatever content that you have in front of you, look at it. Dodging tax, and that's just 2 sentences. Is this enough? If you remember the rubric, remember you need to write at least 90 to 100 words. Yes? So what do? This is the textual information. This is the information that you have in front of you. Yes? But remember, this is descriptive writing skill. This is descriptive reading comprehensions. You have to describe your answer. So let's look at the answer. So our suggested answer is this. If you read the answer carefully, you will see there isn't anything that we have included which is outside the text. The information is right there in the text in front of you. We haven't included anything that is not a part of the text, but we have explained our answer so that you meet the criteria, so that your answer is not too short, too vague, too brief, or it's too long, right? This is how we have explained the answer in our own words. We have paraphrased. We haven't copied or pasted. Do not copy or paste. Please remember, you have to paraphrase it, right? Let's look at the next question. What are the advantages of a formal economy over an informal one? And if you have been with me, if you've been listening to the lesson, you will know that we have a paragraph, actually a paragraph that talks about this. Yes, let's go back to it. If you remember paragraph 2, where I was telling you why it makes sense, why is it important, yes, how it will help, remember? So we have the content in paragraph 2. Yes, let's go back and see how we have tried to write down the answer instead of copying pasting it. Okay. Taxes are needed to fund public services. They are critical and vital sectors like education and health, which require attention and finances. Also, a more formal economy leads not only to growth, but also the spirit of innovation is kindled. This will also impact the country's exports. In a formal economy, taxes are paid, which results in providing better public services for its citizens. In addition, tax to GDP ratio becomes high. However, in India, the tax to GDP ratio is stagnant for decades. This has impacted sectors like education and healthcare. Income via formal jobs is 20 times more than the informal ones. Also, formal businesses have higher probabilities of innovating, growing, and exporting. You see, again, I haven't written anything that is outside the passage. The entire set of information that we have used to phrase our answer is taken from the passage. We have paraphrased, we have written it in our own words. This needs practice. You have to practice reading comprehension. Two things. It should be a two-pronged approach. You should practice remembering the content and understanding or identifying or highlighting the main points whenever you are reading it. This will make you a good reader, yes? The second thing is you have to practice writing answers. Whatever you get from the text, you copy paste it. No, that will not help. You will fall short of content, you will be penalized. You have to practice writing answers in simple sentences. Your language need not be flowery. Your language need not be complicated. It just needs to be grammatically correct, but you have to focus on the content. You have to write in your own words, explain your points, right? Let's look at the last question. Why does the author consider demonetization a bad move? Remember that passage where we talked about how the author is providing his opinion? Yes? If you remember that passage, yes, let's go back to it. This is the last paragraph where he's suggesting the best result. So the best result, we will get the best result only if our policies are sensible, when we implement effective solutions, right? Remember how the last paragraph talked about demonetization not working. Therefore, the author feels this is the best policy. What is the best thing to do? The best thing to do is to identify effective solutions and implement them. Let's take a look. Yes. Look, what happened during demonetization? During demonetization, the government tried to formalize the economy. But remember that paragraph where we were talking about how it turned to be a bad move? It ended up affecting people who were trying to make a livelihood. Yes, so the jobs in the formal sector are very few and limited. A large section of the society worked in the informal sector. They were forced to pay taxes on their meager earnings. It was supposedly a good move. It did not work. It affected the common people miserably, right? That's the reason the author feels the demonetization did not work. It's a bad move. And what did the author think was a good move? Well, definitely digitalizing, linking Aadhaar card. See, what have I done? When I read the passage with you, I have remembered or tried to remember the important points. So every time I see a question, I'm trying to link the question with the important point. And since we have already divided the paragraph into chunks, we know exactly which chunk to go back to instead of reading the passage again and again and again. This will save time, definitely. It will save a lot of efforts also. You will not get anxious. You will know, you would be level headed and you would know exactly where to look for the answer, right? Okay, so this is the last thing on our agenda today. So here are 4 words. Yes, and you can do this at home. Read the passage, underline the words. You can make sentences with these 4 words and you can put it down in the comment section. And I'm going to take a look at it, right? You can do that. That way, it's going to be an activity for you as well, right? So read the passage, read the words, think and frame sentences with these 4 words and put it down in the comments section. Yes, I hope this session has been useful for you. I hope the tips you will use, you will practice, and you will try to implement. Please stay safe, prepare well, all the best for your exam. Also, if you've liked the video, do not forget to subscribe, comment, or like, and also click on the notification button so that you get to know or you are informed every time we upload such videos. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being so patient and so supportive. Thank you. Have a lovely day. See you soon.